The Separate Ways DLC just came out and it's a really fun DLC. There was close to nothing to complain about, and overall it's getting great reviews. But no one ever seems to talk about how terrible the original Separate Ways was. The original wasn't really a DLC, it was added to all the game ports of Resi 4 after the GameCube. So it started in the PS2 port. So yeah, that means that you didn't have to pay for this quote unquote DLC. So it makes sense that the DLC for the remake, which costs $10, to be much better. Or at least that's what the first argument most people would make. Oh, you didn't have to pay for that extra content, so why are you complaining? And yeah, usually that makes for an, although incredibly shallow argument, it makes sense. What people have to know is that yes, this is recycled content from the main game. It's roughly 2 to 3 hours of super recycled, taped together parts of the main game, and it is still the same gameplay from the original campaign. There is like 2 new weapons, a sawed-off shotgun and a crossbow, and a glorified bolt button of a grapple hook, which to be honest isn't really that cool. Yes, it's all free extra content with no additional cost. Although to be fair, it's not available in all ports, so you would have to buy a new console and game to play it. But that's a lame argument to make, so I won't. Don't get me wrong with what I just said. I knew it was recycled content, and just like everyone else, I wasn't expecting much from a 2004 extra side content. Even if it's recycled content, it's still just more Resi 4. And when I want to play Resi 4, obviously having more of that game is good. There is absolutely nothing wrong with recycling content as long as it's free. So what did the original Separate Ways do wrong? Well, the whole argument of it's free so you aren't allowed to complain goes out the window when they changed the canon of the story just so they can use more recycled content. But before we talk about this, let's talk about the campaign. I'm gonna be honest, this part will be quick. I don't really have a lot to say about this because it's a quick expansion, it's only 2 hours. But I do have a few complaints. So yeah, let's get started with the music. This is a very weird thing to complain about, but nevertheless I feel like I should mention it. Even if it's very subjective. When you start the game, you literally just spawn in the middle of the village, and then this very upbeat and arcadey music starts playing, and I don't know, I feel like it just kind of feels like I'm playing Mercenaries, or like there should be a timer on my screen. And now that I think about it, it's a distraction. Playing this very upbeat and arcadey music is done for the sole purpose of making you feel like you are constantly in combat or engaging with the game. The Leon campaign only played this type of music during combat. In here it feels like it's here to distract you from the fact that this is a 2 to 3 hour long campaign with terrible enemy encounters. Because that's what they did, they just spawned enemies without really thinking of a flow or combat engagement. Another complaint is that there's only 2 new weapons, which is kind of boring. The shotgun is just another shotgun, so the only new weapon is the crossbow, which is pretty cool, I guess. I mean, thankfully you start with weapons already, which is pretty cool, because if you had to start from zero it would be pretty boring. The grapple hook Ada has doesn't really add anything to the game. It's just a bolt button, to be honest, which is alright. I wasn't expecting to swing around like Spider-Man or anything like that. My last complaint before the big one is that they really didn't think about enemy placement. They did the bare minimum, and that's okay, I guess. But then they added this shitty part with these 2 big ass boats. This extra content in itself would have been fine had they not added Krauser as a boss fight. So yeah, they revived Krauser for this campaign just so they can recycle the boss fight, because they don't care about changing the canon. And the only thing they really wanted to do was add more runtime so they can claim that this is a 2 hour long expansion. This is the most out of pocket shit ever. This Krauser doesn't even feel like the real Krauser. Ada has some new lines in this campaign, even if they're a bit weird.
That's a large thing you have there. But I don't like it when men play rough.
By the way, I like this voice actor much better than the one we got in the remake. I know that's not really a hot take, a lot of people feel the same way. But I don't know, I just like this one better, even though she has these weird ass lines. But it's funny because this isn't the only time she ever had these weird interactions between characters. For example, in the remake, you got this weird interaction between Ada and Ashley.
Leon needs help! Hurry!
And it just comes off as very weird. But I don't know, it just feels really weird. These characters were never meant to meet each other. And it's really funny how Ada seems to be much more inclined to starting a conversation with the stranger than with Ashley.
Hey, stranger. So what are you buying?
You've picked quite the place to set up shop, stranger.
Aye, and look what it brought me. Well now, let's make our first time doing business a memorable one.
I think Ada is the only person to have canonically spoken to the stranger, which is weird. Like, see, it just keeps adding up to how weird Ada is. So I don't know, I just feel like maybe Ada has like severe crippling social anxiety or something. But they didn't even bother to rehire the voice actor for Krauser, and maybe, but that's probably not their fault. That's maybe something else going on. Maybe the actor for Krauser was busy or something. So yeah, they gave him the writer treatment like in San Andreas. He has absolutely no lines in this campaign, even if there is a few cutscenes with him in it. And it's even worse because Ada speaks to him in those cutscenes.
Oh, Krauser, I'm sorry. I jumped the gun when I reported you dead to Wesker. Think of all the paperwork I would have to fill out if you were to show up alive.
Come on.
They don't even bother to explain how he is alive. Although I'll keep it fair and say that in the original death scene for Leon in the OG, Leon kinda just lets him die and then it's assumed that he bleeds out. But then there is this big explosion and that should be enough to destroy the corpse or something. But I guess after Leon left and Krauser had that whole ass speech about how he's dying but Leon is epic now because he took him down, he just got up and said, dying right now just to give another man closure? Nah, that shit's crazy. Giving closure is like giving head. So yeah, there is no context as to why he's alive. He has no voice lines or recycled lines. It makes it feel like he's a skinwalker. He shows no emotions and says nothing, and it's even worse that it's Ada too, because they had this sort of beef going on where they didn't really trust each other and stuff. But now that they are about to have this fight where one of them is gonna die, Krauser has nothing to say. And Ada does say a few questionable stuff to him. So yeah, Ada fights Skinwalker Krauser. They had beef, but only because they were sort of working together and didn't trust each other. And I get that Ada did save Leon from Krauser in the first fight, but I honestly don't think Krauser would have fought Ada. So if Krauser just let her go, then he would have just been free to go. And let me make it clear that Krauser attacked first, so now it makes even less sense. I mean, we know Ada is this kind of professional where she doesn't really try to do anything but what she's ordered to do, unless it involves Leon. Because Krauser knows that she's working for Wesker, so she's not gonna do anything that she doesn't need to. So it makes no sense that Krauser would try to kill her, unless he's still like, I guess, pissed off about her saving Leon or something. And for Ada, I just don't see why Ada would want to kill him, apart from, you know, being attacked by him. Because otherwise it's kind of like, why would Ada want to kill Krauser? I guess you could say it's because Krauser would have snitched to Wesker about how she betrayed him or something like that, I guess. But if Krauser returns to Wesker, I feel like he would have been killed and he knows that because Wesker is a bad bitch like that. So yeah, all of this just doesn't make sense. Everything about this fight feels incredibly off. You can absolutely tell this was recycled, but it's the worst type of recycle where it doesn't make sense at all. I remember seeing some guy that, oh, he wasn't saying nothing because he was too tired and weak to speak. And it's like, well, apparently he wasn't tired enough to wave dash around like fucks though. This is what that person eats for breakfast, by the way. And I haven't even explained how this ruins any impact of Leon killing him. Krauser wasn't ever this deep character at first glance. Apparently he worked with Leon in the past as a partner in the original. And in the remake, he is like his mentor or something like that, like Chifu, but he was never in any other game. And no, I don't care if Krauser's first appearance happened in the Resident Evil 4 hentai MMORPG pinball arcade machine. He was in no other game, but hey, that's okay. His character and dialogue is built around the fact that he isn't in any other game. It kinda leaves us with the idea and imagination of Leon and Krauser going through some buddy shit, which is really effective at setting up a relationship between these characters. It's not really a thing where they mention specific events. It's more of a you had to be there to understand type shit. You can hear it in Leon's voice how he's determined to prove him wrong. And Leon doesn't really try to run away from the fight ever. He's always so determined to put him down. And Krauser is the same way. Only time he runs away is when Ada steps in. But to be honest, he could have killed Leon right there. So I feel like he only ran away so later they could have a 1v1 basically. And at the end when Leon finally kills Krauser, it's basically giving Leon closure. That's like if Chris had to kill Jill. We don't talk about Resi 5. But nah, we need more slop for the piggies. After completing the campaign, I couldn't believe they actually did that. It feels like another company took over and didn't care at all about the story or gameplay, and had like a 2-week time limit to finish. I remember thinking that they would definitely change everything about the Krauser fight in this DLC, or even just not put it in at all. And when I finally played Resi 4 and I saw the way Leon actually finished off Krauser, and I knew for a fact he wasn't gonna come back in Separate Ways DLC. And I was right, they knew how terrible the original Separate Ways was. So yeah, pretty bad extra content. Honestly, this is the type of shit you play and you just know it's trash. Like, you just know it's horrible. Thankfully, the remake of Separate Ways is excellent. The combat and level design is really good. You still can't swing around like Spider-Man, but now you can actually do stuff with the grapple, like removing shields and grapple towards enemies. To be honest though, the shield removing mechanic is really kinda useless. It's underplayed just because you get the Punisher very early in the campaign. So, and that has bullet penetration, which means you can shoot past the wooden shields for like most of the game. But I guess it's really neat if you really want to switch to the Red 9. But there's still only 2 new weapons, which is kinda a letdown because I really wanted to see more guns. But I mean, I guess it's kinda okay. But the grapple hook and the new melee animations are so awesome. That honestly makes up for the lack of guns. Landing multiple different melee moves, grapples, and parries is so cool looking. In this game, you're a ninja. They also took the right approach at recycling content. A lot of content was missing from the Resident Evil 4 campaign. So they brought it all back in this one. Yeah, they're removing content from the original campaign, but it just fits so much better here. And yeah, they removed the whole Krauser fight and replaced him with U3. I only really have like 2 or 3 complaints. One is that the first 2 chapters are like 6 minutes long each, but then the game kinda picks up after that. And that Ada just spits out her infection, which only happens in this DLC. In the original DLC, you don't get infected in that one. I guess it's a different kind of infection, but it reacted to the Plaga stone. So I don't know, it kind of just feels like they gave up on it. Like, well, the guy that used this is dead, so let's just make Ada barf it out or something. So they did, which kind of felt a bit forced. Also, it's really cool to see just how many times they can recycle the Mr. X AI from the Resi 2 remake. They've done it like 3 times already. They did it for the Nemesis, even though that one is kinda improved so it can do the other stuff that it did in the original Resi 3. They did it for Mendes, and they did it for U3 in this new one. And I don't really know how I feel about Wesker being here in person. It doesn't really change anything, but it's like, why? And you don't even have to be here. You paid Ada to do the work for you. Yeah, and even if you're going out of your way to come and check on her because you don't trust her, why are you acting like you don't care that she didn't blow up the island and that she stole the stone? Like, you definitely care about it if you kept showing up in person. But I guess he did have Krauser's body at the end. So yeah, I think that kind of makes up for the stone. But overall, I have to say it's a major improvement. In fact, it's actually just better in general. than the original Separate Ways. I don't think we are gonna see a Resi 5 remake because it's too modern. So yeah, that's all I really have to say. Thanks for watching.